So welcome to our third week and our third webinar of our bully prevention for Clayton NC that we're doing for Bully Awareness Month in October of 2014. I appreciate you guys taking a look at this video. I hope that you found the other two videos and webinars that we've done have been helpful. And today we want to talk about what we're going to be doing when we see a bullying event or what we suspect is a bullying event and what we have to do about it. So just to recapitulate what we've gone over the past 2 weeks in case you've missed those, I'm your presenter. My name is Scott Swishow. I'm of Revolution Self-Defense and Revolution Modern Martial Arts in Clayton, North Carolina. I'm a martial arts coach, so I do have a unique perspective on bullying and bullying behavior because parents are asking me how they can get their kids involved in the martial arts to prevent bullying or other things. Maybe a student is already a member of the martial arts and they're having some bullying incidents in school, and parents are asking me about these types of things. So I've had to address this for a lot of different kids over the years, and I think it gives me a little bit of a unique perspective. Now, week one, we talked about the definitions of bullying, the different ways that bullying can occur, where it can occur, and how it can occur. And on week two, we talked about who the main actors in a bullying event are, the ones who are at risk of being targets of bullying behavior. We talked about the people who are at risk of becoming the ones who are exhibiting the bullying behavior, and we also talked about some of the risks of the bystanders of bullying behavior and some of the negative outcomes that the kids will have by being involved in these events. So when you are, as an adult, you witness what you think is a bullying event or you're hearing about what's a bullying event, the first thing that we have to do is stop it immediately. And there's some do's and don'ts that we want to address when it comes to stopping the event immediately. Number one, you do want to intervene, but you have to do so in a calm manner and respectfully. You don't want to get in the middle of an event and start casting aspersions, calling people names, screaming, hooting, and hollering. You are going to be the leader, and you have to show the kids the type of behavior of how you handle something using your words in a confident way and a calm way as opposed to resorting to anger and emotionality. Secondly, you have to separate the parties involved, and that seems like a no-brainer, but you have to physically separate them and get them in two different locations, not just stand in the middle, put your hand on one hand on each kid's chest, and stand between them. You want to get, person A in one location and person B in another location. You want to be reassuring that your goal of stepping in is just to stop the behavior before it gets any worse. And be prepared to call other adults if you need help, if the bullying event is already divulged into physical attacks or anything like that, or is particularly harsh, and be ready to call the police if the event is criminal. If there's any kind of sexual abuse or any kind of assault going on, you may have to actually call the police, so be aware of that. Things that you don't want to do because they're going to just be counterproductive or make the situation worse further down the line, is you don't want to sit there and just force the kids to make up, because it's going to be obviously very half-hearted. The person who was the target of the behavior may be already upset, may be already scared, going through a lot of different emotions, and you don't want them to just say, oh, it's okay, and shake hands, so then next week when you're not around, the event can just occur again. You don't want to try to get the facts. So we don't want to step in the middle during a heated situation and then try to find out who did what to who, when, why, how. That's not the time to do that. You just want to stop the event and get the kids reassured and get them away from each other. You don't want to ask for feedback from the bystanders. The kids who are watching, you don't want to put them on the spot and say, hey, Johnny, you saw what happened, tell me. Because they're going to be either, maybe they were a bystander, maybe they were participating in the event, or maybe they're afraid to speak up. And even if they do speak up, they may become the next target of the child who is exhibiting the bullying behavior in this current event. And you also don't want to talk to the participants as a group. You just don't want to corral everybody around and say, okay, let's talk about what happened, and let's talk about why we shouldn't do it anymore. That, again, when the bullying event is happening, that's not the time to get involved with the goal of trying to fix the situation right on the spot. Our goal number one at that point is just to get the event to a stop and not to occur anymore, so then we can address how we prevent it in the future. So that comes to step two. That's when you want to discover what happened. You're going to want to get the facts from the kids, the person who you believe was exhibiting the bullying behavior or persons, and also obviously the target or targets of the bullying behavior. You want to get their sides of the story, and you want to do it separately. As well as you're going to want to talk to any adults who may have witnessed the activity. You want to talk to them separately as well. So they just don't influence each other or influence each other's responses or anything like that. Or, if you're asking the kid who was the target of the behavior in front of other kids, they may be embarrassed. It may not tell you the true situation of what occurred. You want to listen to both parties. You don't want to assign blame. You don't want to be admonishing to anybody. Yeah, again, you don't want to assign any kind of labels saying you're a bully or you're a victim. Those are the things, if you listened on week one, that we want to avoid. And you even want to avoid referring to the event as a bullying event. Because again, once you start saying that the event was a bullying event, just by the nature of it, you're already going to be assigning the roles to people. So if child A was the one who was a target of some negativity, and child B was the actor in the event, when you call it a bullying event, child B really at that point realizes that they're being called a bully, and child A realizes they're being called a victim. So you don't want to even refer to the event as a bullying event. Our third step is to provide information to the kids who are involved. And first, we're going to talk about the target of the behavior, because this person is going to need to be reassured most likely. So as you're listening to their story, you want to truly listen to them. Don't just wait for your opportunity to weigh in. Listen to how they feel, listen to the situation, what occurred, and show empathy, and make sure that the child knows that you're there to help them. You also have to make sure that they realize it's not their fault. They've become a target of bullying behavior for some reason, but it's no fault of their own. You want to make sure that you're seeking advice from parents of the children who are involved, other parents who may have gone through this prior to you, school officials, and things of that nature, to make sure that you're falling in line with the goals of the school and the goals of the parents. The things you want to avoid is telling the child to fight back or ignore the behavior. Ignoring the behavior, if it's a real serious behavior, you don't want to ignore it. Sometimes, in my opinion, if it's just not that serious, name calling or things like that, ignoring it is the best policy. But if the behavior is much more serious, you don't want to ignore it. If there's physical threats of harm outside of school, any kind of negative physical contact, those things can't be ignored. They have to be addressed. But you don't want to tell the child to fight back because, again, you're not, number one, sometimes you're not the child's parent, so you can't make that judgment call about their morality and how you think the child should respond. Second, fighting fire with fire isn't always the best option. If that was the best option, firemen would fight fire with fire, but they don't. They fight fires with water. So you don't want to tell the child to start punching people and attacking people or things of that nature, because it's just, quite honestly, it's not all right. Even me as a martial arts coach, we teach kids how to defend themselves, how to strike, how to kick, how to block. It's part of what we do, but I let the children know that it's up to them and their parents to discuss when is the appropriate time to use force to defend themselves. That's up to mom and dad and the child, not up to us. So instead, what we want to do is come up with a game plan, either involving the child or involving parents and school officials and other adults, to keep the child safe and prevent the behavior. If it's simply behavior that's happening because of proximity, maybe the one who's exhibiting the bullying behavior sits right next to the one who's the target, and it's during math class that the bullying is occurring, then a real simple game plan, just thinking out loud, would be to perhaps have those kids not sit next to each other anymore. And that may be the simplest answer. But you have to come up with a game plan and some steps that you can take and the child can take and the adults involved can take to make sure that the behavior is addressed and prevented. Then we want to touch base with the children who are exhibiting the bullying behavior. Obviously, we want them to stop this behavior with the child that we witness them bullying, and also with children in the future. So you need to educate the child that they may not even realize that their behavior is that harmful. They may think it's just pranking or something simple. But you have to educate the child that it's very harmful and very hurtful to other people, and it's not the type of person that they should want to become. You want to explain that it is also taken very seriously. Bullying is something that is a serious situation that's going to be taken seriously by school officials and by adults, and as they get older, it's going to be more serious, the consequences. And then finally, if you can, you want to identify a root cause to the bullying behavior. If the child is exhibiting bullying behavior because they're being abused or bullied by other people, we want to know this so that we can now prevent that child from being a target of bullying behavior and hopefully stop it in that regard. And maybe the root cause is that they want to fit in with their peers, so they're doing it to gain attention. And then if we know that we can develop a game plan to give them other ways to seek attention that are positive as opposed to the negative aspects of bullying. And finally, you want to touch base with the kids who are the bystanders to the bullying event, and tell them some strategies that they can use to make sure that the bullying is not that the bullying is not repeated, or prolonged. And we discussed some of these things on our first week, and these are in no particular order on our slide, but you want to have the kids who are bystanders think of the target as a friend. And if you're a friend to the person who is a target, you're not going to want to just stand idly by and watch them be abused verbally or physically. You want them to tell an adult. You don't want them to get physically involved and start grabbing people. Again, it's not their place, and it's not the most effective way of addressing it. They should immediately, when they see a bullying event, they should tell an adult, and particularly one that they trust. They don't want to be part of the audience, and that's a big portion of it. A lot of times bullying events are occurring because there's an audience watching, and the diffusion of responsibility when you have 10, 15 kids watching a bullying event, it's not their responsibility. The responsibility gets diffused, so the bystanders feel like it's not their place to go and tell an adult, and you have to let the kids know that that's not the right way to think about it. They have to not be part of the audience. They have to walk away from these situations, and preferably when they're walking away, they're going to go get an adult. And they also have to show leadership in all these things. They have to be the one out front who's going to be a friend to the target, who's going to be the one who's going to tell an adult, who's going to stand up and walk away and not be part of an audience. And they're also going to have to show leadership by the way they behave, in the sense that they don't want to be out demonstrating bullying behavior themselves. So that's where the leadership piece comes in. So I hope this has been some helpful information, just like our first two webinars. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. It's given you guys some strategies to take a look at as far as what we can do when we see bullying events. Next week we're going to talk about further steps that we as adults can do to end bullying as a whole, and this is going to be more in the sense of preventing bullying events before they even start. I'm really excited about next week's. I think it's going to be a bit shocking, or a bit folks are going to be a bit surprised by the angle we take on it, but I think it's going to be some important information. So I hope you guys have a great weekend. Hope you enjoyed this webinar, and I'll see you next week. Thanks a lot.